Now we shift our attention towards CSAM Health Group, which is a Norwegian group within healthcare. And with me I have Sverre Flatby, who is CEO, as well as Einar Bonnevie, who is CFO. I wish you both welcome.
Thank you very much.
You prepared a presentation, unlike many others who have been with us here today. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone. I'm happy to present CSAM here with my colleague Einar. First of all, let's tell you what it is all about. The three first words you see here: healthcare, specialist, and software. Very important three words, defines us very much. And by choosing that strategy, CSAM has become a leading Nordic player and also growing in Europe. And to explain to you what type of company, what type of market we are in, it's important to understand that e-health or healthcare software is a growing and a very stably growing market. And the healthcare spend is continuously being strong in the Nordics. They're also good here in the Nordics to put together clinical systems in hospitals. Also, the increased regulations in the market is actually a good thing for software businesses. They're getting more complex and more important for healthcare processes. And also, these specialized clinical type of components are growing and actually the largest part of this thing within the specialized healthcare. And as you know, with these times of war in Europe and different things within the financial business, obviously this type of market is really not affected that much. It's a very strong, predictable, growing market. And also the growth further in the years to come in Europe is also very strong. So keep that in mind when you think about CSAM and where we're going from. And then obviously, most important when it comes to our people, more than 300 people, why are we working here? If you look at this couple, what are they thinking about? Maybe they want a child. Maybe they've just called 911 for emergency call, or maybe some in their family has got cancer. In all of those and similar types of situations, probably a CSAM component will be at work helping people. So all of our types of products are important not only for the healthcare institutions and the personnel, but also in the end for patients. And then we have come far. We are a very diversified, strong situation when it comes to our customer position. So we have more than 500 healthcare institutions as customers in 25 countries. And this diversified platform is obviously a very predictable, strong platform to grow on. So that there you have CSAM in a nutshell, a strong, predictable foundation with also a roll-up story and a growth story on top of that. And then if you look at the types of predictability and why we have predictability, well, these specialized software components are inside these areas for many, many years, sometimes many decades actually. So that gives us a very much of visibility when we look at all our 750 unique contracts. That also has given us extremely low churn over the years. That means the stability, predictability in our recurring revenue is extremely strong. And as you can see here in the bottom of this slide, some of our relevant customers that is behind these robust income streams. And then, what type of components are we actually delivering here? Well, first of all, we have 7 business areas, and these business areas are all related to these specialized areas within hospitals or public safety. So if you start on the top left here, medication management is actually about handling cancer medication, and then it supports the doctor who creates cures. It supports the pharmacy to deliver and produce the cure, and then obviously the nurses in the hospitals to actually administer and give the cure to the patient. and also subsequently an app for the patient at home to actually collaborate and say, I have eaten, I have slept, etc. And this is a small value chain inside medication management that gives a very strong position for us. And also women's and children's health, the second one there, is actually a similar thing, although it's completely different when it comes to looking at it as a clinical or medical discipline. However, birth for a child, everything is extremely important when it comes to your complete health for the rest of your life when it comes to the birth and the period before. So our systems here are handling important data before childbirth and also during childbirth and after. And the value chain here is also the doctors, midwives, and the pregnant lady. And then we have medical imaging. What is medical imaging in our context? Highly specialized, for instance, like this component, taking a picture of a skin cancer and then integrate that process and documentation with other systems in the hospitals. Again, highly specialized and important for healthcare processes. Top right there, you have something called connected healthcare. That is obviously not a medical discipline, but it's important for all hospitals in the Nordics and Europe and beyond, because they all have different applications they have to integrate into. And that is also another software business we have to integrate our other components into applications architecture in the biggest hospitals around Nordics and Europe. So what is health analytics? It's a very growing and important area. Health analytics is about using data that is important to plan, understand, analyze businesses in healthcare. And we have, through acquisitions also in this area, managed to become important when it comes to these type of registers and analytics models. And also here, we have different types of solutions that are used by researchers and also managers to administer highly important healthcare data. And then we have our biggest area, public safety, which is, for instance, in Sweden, where you have all 911 calls in Sweden, is obviously handled by software from CSAM, where the operators are handling these incidents. And at the same time, we have software also in Sweden, Norway, that also are in the ambulances to make sure that the ones that drives the ambulance and also the people behind in the back of the car that treats the patients have their software as well. And the last business area, blood management, is actually about how to handle different types of processes around blood. It has to about those that are giving the blood, storage of the blood, and processes within the clinical area to deliver this blood and also tissue, etc., to important clinical processes. So all in all, if you look at all of these, the reason why the predictability of our business is so high is, of course, that these type of components are highly important for patient treatment, and that is the good thing with our current operational business. And as you will understand now, on top of this, we are also acquiring new types of businesses, which gives us the possibility not only to be predictable, but also growing. So we have called that process buy, integrate, and build. And we buy software businesses with the same characteristics. And then we have a process to integrate them over 2 years into our business to secure a margin expansion. We have a target margin of 30% EBITDA, which we aim to have each time we acquire something and use our internal processes in 2 years. So that is how we do it. It's a model, and we've done it 15 times. So it's a well-trained team. And then now, if you look at us just now, we have ongoing integrations based on acquisitions we've already done. At the same time, obviously, we have a lot of dialogues going on to acquire more companies, but as of now, these are the ones that are going to be integrated. And that is how you have to understand how our financials are developing, because there's nothing happening just from a quarter to another. It's a combination of all these portfolio companies and integration of those that creates the 30% margin in the end. So that means our aim for 30% margin now will be at the second half of 2023. And then To run this business, it's highly important how you organize the business. And we have made sure that these businesses are separate business entities, centralized, making it easier to focus more on the customer, be customer-centric, and also make sure that we can measure organic growth and profitability within each business area. And at the same time, it gives us the possibility to scale better when it comes to how we integrate these companies. So all in all, we have shown over the years that we have had a combination of very strong growth based on these recurring revenue streams. On top of that, we have an organic growth of 5 to 10% annually based on mostly reselling to existing customers. And then on top of that, we have our growth story. So this combination is meant to bring us to 1 billion in sales in 2025. And I think this is probably how you should read us when it comes to our future reports on the stock exchange. And also, we have ambitions and we have a history showing our ability to do what we say we're going to do. So we have been the leading Nordic player for some years, and we are growing outside the world, the Nordic region, and we also aim to be notable in Europe and in the world in the years to come. And I think we have shown that through our actually current performance. If you look at our second quarter this year, that we are growing outside the Nordics. And also see we are very strong in Sweden, which also is a spine and a backbone in our recurring revenue business. So maybe now we should go into the financials, and I'll give the word to my colleague Einar.
Thank you, Sverre, and good morning, everyone. Let's have a look at the numbers. CSAM, we have had experienced very strong growth since 2015. That was also the year when a private equity investor, Privik, came into CSAM. They exited a few years ago. And these are the numbers in Norwegian kroner. So we are growing from approximately 50 million kroner in sales in 2015, and we reached 330 in 2021. And we're heading towards 400 for next year. So that is where we are. The main focus and the main traction is the recurring revenues, and that is a combination of classic service and maintenance revenues or SaaS revenues, so subscription. But the thing is, they are growing and they are growing fast, and we see from Q2 21 to Q2 22, you see an annual growth of 35%. So this is really the backbone. And our customers, they are typically in the public sector. 95% of the sales are to customers in the public sector, in the Nordics and elsewhere. So very, very stable counterparts and very, very low churn. So we have over the years experienced less than 2% churn. So this is really the perfect foundation on which to run an M&A business. If you look at the second quarter, we are soon to release the third quarter number, but the second quarter numbers are the latest. You see that the total revenues, they grew 13% quarter over quarter, same quarter last year. And the quality of earnings, i.e. the recurring revenues, they comprise almost 80% of total sales. And growing. The reported EBITDA shrunk a little in the second quarter compared to last year. And that is because of all the acquisitions that Sverre mentioned. We typically acquire companies that are turned around or turned better. So when we acquire companies, they typically dilute our margins temporarily, and we will restore them. Also, a lot of some delivery projects, we received order faster than we could process them and had to hire in some consultants to assist us. But that is a temporary challenge. But again, you probably could have worse problems in a company than having too many orders to process. Where are our investors? If you 1/3 of the investors are like Sverre and myself and the original founders of the company. The free float is approximately 70%. And of that free float, you see that actually the biggest investor group are Swedish investors, followed by Norwegians, and then a growing part of Anglo-American investors, UK and American-based investors. A lot of the investors they are institutional, long hold, buy and hold forever type of investors. Very good for us, very robust investors. But we should also like to attract other investors like the private investors. They will provide liquidity, and we think it's also a good investment opportunity for other investors. And there are two ways to invest in CSAM. One is, of course, the share. We're listed in Oslo on Euronext Growth. Ticker code is CSAM. And we will release our Q3 numbers on the 30th of November. So that is the next update we'll have. It will be a live transmission. You can check our website and you can just log in and view us. We have endless coverage by two investment banks, Carnegie and the Norwegian DNB. You can also invest in CSAM by our bond, listed on Nordic ABM, alternative bond market. And we have currently 500 million NOK outstanding. The bond is running at 3 months NIBOR plus 500 bips, matures in 2024. So that is how you can invest in CSAM. All right. As Sverre said, we will. What are we going to do next? We will continue to focus on e-health and especially software for hospitals, growing in the Nordics and beyond Europe and elsewhere. We will continue to focus on recurring revenues. That is really the backbone for us. Either we do M&A or for our bond investors. And we will grow as fast as we can organically. Typically, the market grows between 5% and 10%, so that is what you should expect. And we will grow through selected mergers and acquisitions. We aim to reach 1 billion exiting 2025, and that will be a large part of that will be through acquisitions. All right, before we go into the Q&A session, we have a newsletter, some exciting stories about CSAM, so you can sign up to our newsletter. You can either log into the webpage on the investor section, or you can simply scan the QR code here on screen, and it will take you directly into the subscription section. All right, that sums it up from all we wanted to say, and we are now ready for all and any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Einar and Sverre. I'll head into the questions now, and I'll just remind our viewers once again that if they have any questions, just write them in the live chat below, and I'll hand them through over to them. In your latest quarterly report, I'll leave these questions open, and you can jump in, so whoever feels most comfortable taking them. I took a quick scan, and as we saw here in the report as well, when it comes to your markets, in 2015, Norway was your biggest market, but now Sweden is your biggest market. You are a Norwegian company. I'm curious why that is.
Yeah, I think there are different answers to that question, but the obvious one is that, Norway and Sweden, we are neighbors, and when we started selling software from Norway to Sweden, that was the first step. But then when we have done all these acquisitions, we have seen that, there are many, many good companies in Sweden that has created these types of software. So one thing is that Sweden has been very good at doing that, creating these software businesses that we could acquire. And secondly, that, Sweden is obviously bigger than Norway. And the summary of that, has created that simple model that, we are bigger in Sweden, and we have also more employed people in Sweden. So we are gradually becoming a more Swedish than Norwegian company, which I think is good for the business and also for our common efforts outside the Nordics, actually.
Let's talk about the Nordics as a whole then. What do you estimate the total addressable market in the Nordics to be?
Well, it's when it comes to clinical specialized software, which we are in, it would be around 3 billion Norwegian kroner. And if you look at outside the Nordics, it would be about 10 times that, so about 30 billion Norwegian kroner. So, and with our run rate, as Einar mentioned, roughly around 400 million, we are obviously just above 10% of the current market in the Nordics. So we have a lot to do to grow in the Nordics, but also a lot to do when it comes to growing outside. So in that sense, we have a huge thing ahead of us.
When it comes to market structure then, could you walk us through the main differences between your different target geographical markets?
Yes, I think if you look at inside the Nordics, to split between Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, of course, they are quite similar markets. So when we look at the hospital structures, they're quite similar when it comes to how they use these specialized components. And the reason for that is that most of our components are related to the human body. We are not selling administrative software like big EPR systems or patient administration systems, etc. Those are for the big Americans and for Swedish companies like Cambio or in Norway's DIPS. So what we have done is focusing on these highly specialized things that are in a way global in their functionality. So that means seen from our side, the market are quite similar actually when it comes to how they use these medical processes, and that is also in many ways a global thing. Although, as I mentioned, our connected healthcare technology makes it possible for us to integrate to all of these specialized systems and application architectures all around the world. So for us, when you look at the market, we are going to stay stronger in the Nordics, going to be notable in Europe through acquisitions, and also in the rest of the world over time. So we look at the 7 business areas we have. There could be more of those, and there could be more countries. And the combination of that is how we grow.
Could you talk to us then a little bit about acquisitions? Because I know that in your Q2, exiting it, you had cash reserves of 261 million Norwegian kroner. With the current market landscape, how is it more attractive now to go shopping, or has it remained unchanged since the year changed?
Well, that's a good question. And first of all, we've had dialogues with many of those acquisitions we have done and those we talked to today over many years. That's how we've been working. We have a database of 300 different types of projects at the moment, M&A projects, and we have had this database for many, many years. And yes, it was a change, not so much during COVID, but after the war and in the beginning, it was a bit more difficult to see how the private market accepted the fact that, there were some changes in valuation. So it has been a while now when it has been paused a bit. On the other hand, there's no lower activity. It's more that maybe a lower frequency of actual transactions. So I think now it's at least my feeling is that now it's turning back and it's going to be easier for us to actually accelerate. So that is how I see it at the moment.
Then with that, we'll go over to see if there's any questions from the crowd. And yes, we have one.
Yes, so normally with the software, you can see that at least before, people were not very inclined to switch software. The cost of switching was very high. Is that something that you see with your products as well? And how does that differ between your different product areas?
Yeah, that's actually a very important question. And I think you hit the actual thing with CSAM, because most of these software types, those we have, and also all of those we have in our database when it comes to acquire, they are related to highly specialized processes. So let me take one example. If you have a birth system, that maternity system installed, a hospital normally would use maybe a couple of years to install. And when we won a contract in 2008, within maternity with a region, they used actually the 4 first years to implement, and then they used the next 4 years actually to add value through types of integrations, new functionality, and then you have the value creation phase after. So in that sense, almost all our software types actually are there for decades, and the switching cost is extremely high, not because of the software, but because the processes, the projects, accreditation, reorganization, and stuff like that. So I think you hit the whole point there, that this is why CSAM is actually so predictable when it comes to recurring revenue with extremely low churn.
Sverre Flatby and Einar Bonnevie, I thank you very much for your time, but we need to get going now. I wish you good luck, though, with CSAM Health Group.
Thank you very much.